Have you ever wondered what it would be like to wake up in a world with no electricity, no running water, and none of the comforts we take for granted today? Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that as you drift off to sleep, your consciousness gently slips through the cracks of time, and when you awaken, you're no longer here. The soft mattress has vanished. The familiar silence of your room is gone, replaced by creaking wood, the scent of smoke, and a chill that bites your skin. You're in the Middle Ages. It's early, still dark outside. A distant rooster cries, and the first sounds of the village begin to rise like whispers from another life. Time feels heavier here, as if each moment is shaped by earth, by superstition, and by the daily struggle simply to exist. Nothing is easy, nothing is fast, and almost nothing is clean. And yet, there's a strange beauty hidden in this harsh world, a quiet melancholy in its foggy landscapes, a kind of poetry in its ancient rituals, a serenity in its slower rhythm. Over the next 2 hours, we'll walk together through this forgotten realm, not as tourists, but as souls misplaced in time, trying to survive and to understand. So tell me, could you last even one day in medieval times? Take a deep breath, settle in, and let this journey begin. There are moments, quiet and half-lit, when the veil between past and present seems so thin you could almost slip through it. You lie still, wrapped in the hush of the night, a gentle breath, the rustle of sheets. Then, slowly, something shifts, not outside, but within, as if your soul were stepping softly away, drawn toward a different place, a different century. The air begins to feel denser. The hum of distant traffic, the glow of electronic screens, the familiar rhythm of your modern world fades. In its place, a silence thick as wool, and through that silence, the faintest echoes of wooden wheels on stone, the creak of leather boots, the call of crows. You are not here anymore. You've arrived in the 13th century. The first thing you notice is the cold, not just the absence of warmth, but a raw, biting chill that seems to seep from the ground into your bones. You wake, not in a bed, but on a rough sack of straw, the smell of mold and earth close to your face. There is no glass window to soften the light, only wooden shutters, slightly ajar, letting in a pale, trembling dawn. And then, the sounds. They are not loud, but they are alive. The distant bray of a donkey, the thud of something being chopped, a child's high voice carried on the wind. The village is waking up, but you are still confused. Every part of your body is stiff, your limbs heavy, your clothes, coarse, scratchy wool, cling oddly to your skin. There's no mirror, no light switch, no phone, only the slow realization that everything familiar has vanished. And in its place, a world as foreign as it is unforgiving. You're a traveler here, not a guest. The floor beneath you is uneven, packed earth that turns to mud when it rains. The wooden beams above your head sag slightly, blackened with age and soot. The smell of smoke lingers in the air, though there is no fire now. Only ashes in a stone hearth. There is no concept of comfort here, only function, only survival. As you push yourself upright, your muscles protest. You're thirsty, but there's no clean glass of water waiting. You're hungry, but breakfast, if it comes at all, will be something hard, something dry, and not yours to claim without labor. And yet, despite the discomfort, there's something quietly beautiful here. A stillness, a clarity. You are in a place where time doesn't rush forward. It settles, it lingers, like fog over the fields. And for the first time in perhaps years, there are no emails, no screens, no demands. Just the day, long, cold, and waiting. This is the beginning of your medieval day. And already, it's nothing like you imagined. There are moments, quiet and half-lit, when the veil between past and present seems so thin, you could almost slip through it. You lie still, wrapped in the hush of the night, a gentle breath, the rustle of sheets. Then, slowly, something shifts, not outside, but within, as if your soul were stepping softly away, drawn toward a different place, a different century. The air begins to feel denser, the hum of distant traffic, the glow of electronic screens, the familiar rhythm of your modern world fades. In its place, a silence thick as wool, and through that silence, the faintest echoes of wooden wheels on stone, the creak of leather boots, the call of crows. You are not here anymore. You've arrived in the 13th century. The first thing you notice is the cold, not just the absence of warmth, but a raw, biting chill that seems to seep from the ground into your bones. You wake, not in a bed, but on a rough sack of straw. The smell of mold and earth close to your face. There is no glass window to soften the light, only wooden shutters, slightly ajar, letting in a pale, trembling dawn. And then, the sounds. They are not loud, but they are alive. The distant bray of a donkey, the thud of something being chopped, a child's high voice carried on the wind. The village is waking up, but you are still confused. Every part of your body is stiff, your limbs heavy, your clothes, coarse, scratchy wool, cling oddly to your skin. There's no mirror, no light switch, no phone, only the slow realization that everything familiar has vanished, and in its place, a world as foreign as it is unforgiving. You're a traveler here, not a guest. The floor beneath you is uneven, packed earth that turns to mud when it rains. The wooden beams above your head sag slightly, blackened with age and soot. The smell of smoke lingers in the air, though there is no fire now, only ashes in a stone hearth. There is no concept of comfort here, only function, only survival. As you push yourself upright, your muscles protest. You're thirsty, but there's no clean glass of water waiting. You're hungry, but breakfast, if it comes at all, will be something hard, something dry, and not yours to claim without labor. And yet, despite the discomfort, there's something quietly beautiful here. A stillness, a clarity. You are in a place where time doesn't rush forward. It settles, it lingers, like fog over the fields. And for the first time in perhaps years, there are no emails, no screens, no demands, just the day, long, cold, and waiting. This is the beginning of your medieval day. And already, it's nothing like you imagined. The door is nothing more than a plank of rough-hewn wood. It groans when you push it open, and the cold air rushes in as if it had been waiting all night. You step outside, and the world greets you, not with noise or haste, but with a kind of hushed endurance. The village is small, pressed low against the land, as though bracing against the wind. Roofs are thatched with straw, walls made of timber and wattle, their frames crooked with time. Chimneys breathe slow trails of smoke into the morning mist. Chickens cluck and peck near the doors. A dog barks once, then disappears into the gray. You are barefoot. The ground beneath you is damp, uneven, and cold. There's no pavement here, only earth, trodden and hardened by generations of feet. Every step reminds you how little stands between you and the world. Every breath tastes of ash, damp soil, and the sharp tang of animals nearby. People move quietly in the early light. A woman, head wrapped in a linen veil, hauls a bucket from the village well, her hands red with cold. A boy, no more than 6, carries a bundle of firewood almost his own size. No one greets you. They barely look at you. In this world, strangers are rare and rarely welcomed. Your clothes are plain, the color of dirt and bark. They do little to keep the wind out. A coarse tunic, likely wool, with a rope belt at your waist. Underneath, rough linen. Everything itches. There is no softness, no warmth held close to the skin. You walk slowly, watching your footing, trying to take in the sounds, the squelch of mud, the bleating of goats, the rhythmic thud of a blacksmith's hammer in the distance. Somewhere, someone is singing softly, a melody you don't know, in a language that sounds like yours, but older, heavier. There's no rush here. Time stretches long, measured not by minutes or deadlines, but by tasks and daylight. And yet, there's a quiet urgency in everyone's movements. Every action has purpose, because every day is survival. You follow the smoke to the center of the village, where a small fire pit glows. Around it, a few villagers share the heat, their hands outstretched. You try to approach, but the warmth is not yours. This is not your fire, not your place. You are alone here, and as the wind slips through the gaps in your clothing, as hunger gnaws gently at your belly, a thought rises, uninvited but undeniable. This is only the beginning of the day. You begin to notice your clothes more with each passing minute, not for their appearance, but for how they cling, chafe, and fail to protect. They're made from wool, but not the soft kind. This wool is coarse, unrefined, and heavy with the lingering scent of lanolin and smoke. The tunic scratches your skin like dry straw, and every movement reminds you that this fabric was never meant for comfort, only endurance. Beneath the tunic, you wear a linen shift, yellowed by time and hand washing in ash soap. There's no elasticity, no stretch. Every seam is thick, every edge slightly rough. The rope belt at your waist doesn't cinch for fashion. It simply holds the layers together. Shoes, if you have them, are made of leather so stiff and thin, they offer little more than protection from sharp rocks. Many go without entirely, and you may soon understand why. Even the effort of walking feels more tiring when the cold bites through to your toes. There are no zippers, no buttons, just ties and toggles fastened by hand, and no change of clothing waiting in a drawer. What you wear is likely what you'll wear all week, perhaps all month. Washing garments is a laborious task reserved for rare occasions. Dirt isn't an inconvenience here, it's a given. And then there are the layers. Winter demands more, but even in milder seasons, people wrap themselves in what they have: shawls, cloaks, hoods. You see men in patched up hose, women in long woolen gowns layered over aprons, children in tunics too large or too short. Every piece reused, repurposed, repaired. Clothing is not identity here. It is status, perhaps, but mostly it is necessity. If your garments are cleaner, finer, dyed in color, it speaks of wealth, of standing. If they are plain, tattered, stained, it tells a story of your station long before you speak a word. As the morning air seeps deeper into your skin, as your body begins to stiffen, you realize something simple but profound. You are entirely at the mercy of your surroundings. Your clothes won't warm you. Your shoes won't shield you. And if the rain begins to fall, as it often does, there is no waterproof refuge, no umbrella, no change of socks, just you, wool, mud, and the slow creeping damp. And still, the day must go on. There is no alarm to start your day, only the sounds of life returning to motion. A rooster calls, sharp and distant. A cartwheel creaks over uneven ground. A door slams in the wind. These are the clocks of the medieval world, unreliable, but unavoidable. And you are already awake, not by choice, but by the cold, the noise, and the ache in your back. The straw mattress offered little rest. It's lumpy and sour with age, flattened unevenly beneath your weight. Bugs may have stirred in the night, crawling through your clothes, nesting in your blanket. If you had one, more often than not, you share the bed. A sibling, a stranger, sometimes two or three. Privacy here is a concept without meaning. The room smells of smoke, sweat, and damp timber. There's no candle burning, no soft glow to greet the morning, only the dull gray of pre-dawn creeping in through wooden slats. You sit up slowly, your body stiff from cold and the awkward angles of the night. If you're lucky, you slept indoors. Many do not. In a peasant's home, the hearth is the heart of the room, but firewood is precious. It burned out in the night, leaving only ashes. There is no insulation, no heating. The breath of winter slips through every crack, nestling against your skin like a wet cloth. You feel your body first, every muscle, every joint, every bruise from the hard surface beneath you. Then, your stomach. It growls faintly, but there is no expectation of breakfast waiting. Food must be earned, cooked, shared, and first, fire must be kindled. You splash your face with water, cold, sharp, pulled from a bucket kept by the door. There is no soap, no towel, just hands. You clean yourself the way they did, with what little you have and what little you know. A moment later, your fingers are numb. There is no mirror, no reflection to check. Your hair is tangled, your skin unwashed, your breath acrid from the long night and yesterday's meager food. But this is not unusual. No one expects anything else. You pull on your clothes, stiff with yesterday's sweat, and step toward the door. Outside, the village begins to stir. And so, your day begins, not with comfort, not with softness, but with cold, hunger, and the slow, reluctant movement of a body that knows it must keep going. Here, comfort is not a right, it is a luxury, and more often than not, a memory. In the medieval world, cleanliness is not a daily ritual. It is an occasional necessity, often misunderstood, and sometimes even feared. There is no concept of a warm shower, no bubbling bath drawn behind a locked door. Water is cold, drawn from a distant well or stream, and its use is carefully rationed. Heating it takes firewood, time, and effort. Most days, people do not wash, not because they are lazy, but because it simply isn't practical. You touch your face and feel the grime of yesterday. Your scalp itches faintly beneath hair matted from sleep. Your hands are streaked with earth, though you've barely begun the day. But no one notices. Everyone carries the same invisible film of labor, of fire, of soil, and sweat. Teeth are not brushed. The idea is foreign. You might chew a twig to clean your gums, or rinse with water if it's available. Breath is heavy with the scent of old food, and teeth rot slowly, painfully. Over time, gums swell, jaws ache. But these are normal conditions, unavoidable parts of life. Baths, when they happen, are rare. A wooden tub may be filled for the entire household, one after another stepping into the same water. Soap is made from ash and animal fat, pungent, rough, not something you'd choose to use unless truly needed. Clothes are worn again and again, often until they can no longer hold their shape. They are beaten clean at the riverbank or soaked in lye. Your body adjusts to the idea of dirt not as an intruder, but as a companion. Cleanliness becomes a luxury reserved for feast days, childbirth, or death. And yet, people survive. They adapt. They find ways to feel presentable, brushing hair with bone combs, rinsing hands before meals, or perfuming garments with herbs and flowers. In castles, scented oils and vinegar washes mask the lack of soap. But in the village, you live with your smells, and others live with yours. No one comments, no one complains, because in this world, hygiene is not silent only in practice. It is silent in thought. It is simply the way things are. Your stomach speaks first. A low, curling hunger, hollow but patient, the kind that doesn't beg. It waits, knowing it may not be satisfied soon. There is no scent of bread in the air, no promise of hot food waiting in the next room. Here, breakfast is not a guarantee. It's a hope, and often just a habit your body has yet to unlearn. In the medieval village, most days begin without food. There is work to do before anything can be eaten. Fires must be lit, grain ground, water hauled, and, even then, the first meal is modest, a crust of coarse bread, hard from yesterday, or the day before, perhaps dipped in broth, if any remains. Maybe a piece of dried fruit, stringy, sharp with fermentation, or a wedge of cheese, waxy and strong, its edges beginning to mold. Milk is fresh only if a cow has been milked that morning. Otherwise, it's sour. Eggs are gathered by hand, one by one, and often saved for barter. Butter, if it exists, was churned yesterday and will turn quickly if not eaten soon. There is no sugar, no jam, no warm pastry waiting, only what survives, the night, and for many, nothing. Children wake and go to work without eating. Adults chew a piece of stale bread while walking to the fields. Hunger is a familiar companion, not feared, but endured. There are no breakfast tables, no clinking cutlery, no clatter of mugs. Food is not a ritual here. It is fuel, and it is scarce. If you are lucky or of higher class, you might be served pottage, a thick, lukewarm stew of grains and root vegetables, cooked over embers and left to thicken day after day. Sometimes it's eaten for every meal. The same pot, the same taste, day in, day out. Water is dangerous. It carries illness. So most people drink ale, even at sunrise. Thin, weak, but boiled and safer than the stream. Children drink it. Elders drink it. It warms you slightly, dulls your thirst, and reminds you how different this world truly is. And still, your hunger grows. But no one rushes to feed you. No one notices. Because here, hunger is as normal as the cold, as the mud, as the silence of a day beginning with too much to do and too little to eat. There is no time for reflection, no stretching in bed, no leisurely coffee, no scrolling through messages. The medieval morning begins with duty, unspoken, expected, and repeated every day of every life. If you live in a village, your tasks are etched into your hands before you even open your eyes. Tend the fire, feed the animals, fetch water, sweep the floor, not for beauty, but to clear the filth that gathered overnight. Every soul has a role, and no moment is wasted on idleness, not because people are strict, but because life itself demands it. Before the day's work begins, many start with a prayer, kneeling on cold stone, fingers wrapped around wooden beads. They whisper words, taught since childhood, words of thanks, words of pleading, for strength, for mercy, for food. Faith is not just a belief. It is structure. It is comfort. It is the only certainty in a world full of risk. The church bell tolls faintly in the distance. It's not the hour it marks that matters. It's the rhythm. It reminds you where the sun is, how far along the day has come, and that somewhere, behind stone walls, a priest is offering mass, perhaps on your behalf. If you're a woman, your rituals are even more tightly bound. You may care for younger siblings, knead dough with tired arms, or stitch torn clothing while the sky still pales. Your hands are your wealth, your tools, your expression of care. You work quietly beside others, each of you moving in sync, like reeds swaying to the same wind. Men sharpen tools, feed livestock, check that nothing has gone missing in the night. Theft is common. So is misfortune. A sick cow, a broken cart, wheel. Any one of these could derail an entire week. Even the children have roles, chores suited to their small hands. Gathering kindling, chasing geese from the garden, collecting dung for fuel. Their laughter, if it comes, is brief and tucked between the necessities. And still, no one speaks of productivity. There is no pride in doing more, no guilt in doing less, only the quiet knowledge that each action holds weight, that everything you do pushes the day forward. And if you fail, if you forget, someone may suffer, so you pray, you sweep, you labor in silence, and somewhere within you, a rhythm forms, not rushed, not stressed, but steady. And so the morning unfolds, not like a flower in sunlight, but like a stone rolling slowly downhill, pulled by the weight of time and need. By now, the sun has risen fully, but it brings no warmth, only light. And with that light, work begins in earnest. In the medieval world, labor is not a choice. It is life itself. There is no weekend, no retirement, no distinction between career and survival. From the youngest child to the oldest elder, everyone contributes, not to thrive, but to endure. If you're a peasant, your day is ruled by the land. You step into the fields, feet sinking into damp soil, back already aching from yesterday's toil. You bend low to plant, to weed, to reap. The tools you carry are crude, wooden handles, iron edges dulled by time. There are no machines to ease the burden, no gloves to soften the grip. Your hands harden quickly, your nails turn black with earth. The work is slow, repetitive, quiet. A hoe strikes dirt. A cart creaks over ruts. Birds wheel overhead, but no one looks up. There is no time for daydreams, only the rhythm of effort. If you're a blacksmith's apprentice, the world smells of ash and iron. Your arms burn with every blow of the hammer, every turn of the bellows. Sparks leap into the air like fleeting stars, but you cannot flinch. You cannot rest. The master watches. The metal must be shaped before it cools. If you work with animals, your morning is a blur of fur and hooves. Cows must be milked, pigs fed, sheep herded. One wrong step, and you're trampled. Or worse, you lose what little you have. Even in towns, labor is everywhere. Bakers knead heavy dough long before dawn. Tanners soak hides in foul-smelling vats. Coopers, weavers, cobblers, all bend over their work in silence, their craft passed down through hands, not books. The body becomes a tool. Muscles adapt. Skin thickens. Pain becomes background noise. And yet, there is a strange poetry in it all. In the rhythm of scythe through grain, in the slow turn of a grinding stone, in the quiet, shared endurance of neighbors working side by side without words. Because here, in this world, there is no separation between self and task. What you do is who you are. A farmer is not someone who farms. They are the farming. Smith is not a profession. It is a way of being, etched into the bones. There is no praise, no paycheck, just the hope that by sunset, your body will still carry you home. And if it does, tomorrow, it will begin again. You begin to notice it more now, not the sharp sting of injury, but the slow, dull ache that hums beneath every movement. Your shoulders sore from lifting, your knees swollen from kneeling in the fields. A blister forms on your hand, hot and raw from gripping the wooden handle of a hoe. These are not unusual sensations here. They are constant companions, as familiar as the wind or the mud. Pain in the Middle Ages is not treated, it is endured. There are no doctors as you know them, no clinics, no painkillers to dull the edge. Medicine is a mystery, tangled in superstition and trial. Illness is explained by imbalance, by humors, by sin. A fever is a punishment. A wound may be a test, a cough, the first step towards something far more dangerous. When you complain of pain, the remedies are humble, sometimes kind, sometimes cruel. A poultice made of crushed herbs and animal fat, tied tightly with cloth. A charm worn close to the skin, etched with symbols and prayers. Leeches placed on flesh to draw out bad blood, or worse, incisions made with dirty blades. Without anesthesia, without understanding, and without certainty, you might seek help from the village healer, often an older woman, feared as much as respected. She speaks in low tones, mixes roots and bark into boiling water, lays hands on the forehead, murmuring to the saints. Her remedies are based on tradition, not science, but sometimes they work. Most of the time, though, the body must heal itself. Broken bone is set as best as someone can guess. An infection is left to run its course. A toothache becomes a swollen jaw, then a fever, then silence. A splintered nail leads to a festering wound. The smallest pain can blossom into something deadly, and always there is the fear, quiet but constant. The fear of not waking up, of not being able to work, of becoming a burden. There are no hospitals for you, no safety nets. If you cannot move, you do not eat. If you cannot walk, you cannot survive. And yet, people go on. They carry the ache in their bodies as they carry baskets, yokes, children. They do not speak of it often, because what would be the point? Everyone hurts. Everyone heals, if they're lucky. Pain is not an emergency. It is not a signal to stop. It is a part of life here, one that does not need a name because it never leaves long enough to be forgotten. Imagine a world where fairness is not found in laws, but in fear, where justice is not blind. It is brutal, public, and cold. In the Middle Ages, there are no rights as you know them, no presumption of innocence, no trained attorneys or impartial juries. Justice is swift, personal, and often final. A simple accusation is enough to seal your fate. Someone says you stole a loaf of bread, or you were seen walking alone at night near the Lord's storehouse, or perhaps your neighbor's cow died mysteriously, and you were heard muttering prayers too strange, too old. Suspicion is enough. Truth is a luxury no one can afford to wait for. You may be dragged to the village square, tied to a post, surrounded by eyes that will not meet yours. There is no defense, only the judgment of the bailiff, or the local lord, or the church. Punishments vary by whim and tradition. A fine, if you're lucky. A whipping, more likely. Stocks in the cold wind, your shame exposed. A finger cut, a brand burned, an ear sliced to mark your crime. And sometimes there is no punishment, only death, hanging, drowning, burning, not just for theft or murder, but for ideas, for questioning, for refusing, for being the wrong person in the wrong place. A woman with herbs may be called a witch, a traveler, a spy. a sick man, cursed. Torture is not uncommon. It is believed to purify, to extract truth, to serve as example. The crowd gathers for executions. Children perch on shoulders. Vendors sell bread and cider. There is laughter sometimes, but beneath it all, a shared dread, because anyone could be next, and no one would stop it. For those with power, justice looks different. A noble caught in scandal might be fined quietly. A knight might duel to prove innocence. A bishop might retreat behind thick stone walls, absolved by ritual. But you are no one. Your fate is tied to soil and sweat. The only shield you have is obedience and silence. Some seek sanctuary in the church. They cling to the altar, invoking God's mercy, and sometimes they are granted time, a few days, a reprieve. But mercy is not promised, even from heaven. You realize something unsettling. It is not only disease or famine you must survive, but judgment. Judgment from men. Judgment without mercy. And it comes like a shadow, fast and silent. Here, the law is not your protection. It is your warning. As the sun climbs its slow arc above the thatched rooftops, the village settles into a rhythm that's not hurried, yet never quite still. The air carries a mix of wood smoke and manure, warmed now by the midday light. Shadows fall at sharp angles, and for a moment, the cold of morning seems to soften, but only slightly. This is the busiest time of day. Children run barefoot between houses, their laughter sudden and brief, swallowed quickly by their chores. A woman stands outside her doorway, pounding laundry against a flat stone. A man mends a broken cartwheel, sweat beading along his temples. Chickens scatter in every direction as a dog trots proudly through the square with a bone far too large for its mouth. Everywhere there is motion, but little noise. Conversations are sparse, mostly practical. People speak in low tones, close to one another. There's no time for stories or gossip in the fields, and in town, the wrong word might follow you. Memory here is long, grudges last. You pass by a small market, just a few tables, covered in coarse cloth, salted fish, root vegetables, clay jugs of vinegar and ale. A woman sells wool. She spun herself, her fingers still raw from the spindle. A boy tries to trade a rabbit's foot for an apple. No coins change hands, only barters, promises, quiet negotiations. There are no clocks to mark the hours, only the sun and the instinct born from repetition. You notice how small the world feels here. The same paths, walked daily, the same faces, marked by time and labor. No one travels far. Most never leave the village at all. To do so would be dangerous, suspicious, perhaps foolish, and yet, within this narrow space, life persists with quiet determination. This is a world built on the familiar, the repeated, the necessary. An afternoon in the village isn't exciting, but it's not empty either. It holds weight, a kind of stillness that isn't quiet, but settled, anchored, each day layered gently upon the last, like the rings of an old tree, and you, though out of place, begin to feel what they feel, not comfort, but acceptance. Its spire rises above the village like a watchful eye. The church is the tallest building, not by accident. Its bell governs the hours. Its walls hold not only sermons, but judgment, forgiveness, and fear. For most in the village, it is the center of life and the edge of the unknown. You enter through a heavy wooden door, its iron hinges groaning like a beast stirred from sleep. Inside, it is cool and dim. Candles flicker on stone ledges, their smoke curling upward like prayers. The air smells of wax and old wood, and something more ancient, like breath held in the walls for centuries. There are no pews, just a scattering of benches. Most kneel on bare stone. A priest stands near the altar, draped in heavy robes. His voice is low, but firm. He does not smile. Smiling is not part of the message. God here is not gentle. He is mighty, watching, recording. You watch. The villagers cross themselves, bow their heads. Some clutch rosaries. Others stare blankly ahead, perhaps reciting words they've known since birth. Even those who barely understand Latin know the rhythm, the call and response, the fear and the hope. This is not just faith. It is structure. It is law. The church owns land, collects tithes, influences judgment. It shapes what is good and who is not. A priest's word can send a man to the stake or spare him, and no one dares question that. But beneath the solemn ritual, there is something else. The church is also refuge, a place where grief is shared, where births are blessed, where the dead are remembered in hushed tones and flickering light. In a world so full of uncertainty, this place, however cold, however stern, offers a kind of stillness, a place to be seen by something greater, even if only in fear. And so, the villagers return, week after week, some with faith, some with guilt, some simply because it is expected, but all with bowed heads. And as you step back into the sunlight, blinking, the spire remains behind you, tall, unmoving, always watching. As the sun begins its slow descent, the mood of the village shifts. The air, once busy with motion, grows quieter. Doors begin to close. Animals are corralled. The smoke from cooking fires rises more steadily now, thicker, tinged with urgency. People speak in shorter sentences, eyes glancing more often toward the horizon. Because here, night is not a time of rest. It is a time of caution. There are no lights to push back the darkness, no street lamps, no lanterns left burning through the night. Candles are precious, oil expensive. Once the sun vanishes, the world folds into shadows, and with those shadows come fears, old and deep. Superstition fills the spaces science has not yet touched. Some fear spirits, restless souls wandering the roads in search of the living. Others fear beasts, wolves that creep near the edge of the woods. Their howls, carried far by the wind, for many, the greatest fear is other people. Thieves, deserters, men who live outside the laws of village or crown. Doors are barred with thick wood. Windows are shuttered. Inside, families gather close, huddled around embers. Conversations grow, quiet, as though sound itself might summon something unwelcome. Even dreams feel heavier. You lie in the dark, every creak of wood or gust of wind amplified in the silence. The chill deepens. Your blanket does little, and somewhere beyond the walls, something stirs. A fox, a stranger, you'll never know. And you won't go check, because in the Middle Ages, to step outside at night is to risk vanishing. And if you disappear, no one will come looking. They will only whisper and pray, so you close your eyes, not to sleep, but to disappear from the night. The evening meal is not a feast. It is a pause, a moment where the day's motion stills, and silence is filled with the sound of chewing, slurping, and the occasional clatter of a spoon against a wooden bowl. You sit low to the ground, near the hearth. A pot has simmered for hours, thickening slowly with barley, onions, maybe a turnip or two. If meat is present, it's a rare treasure. Bones boiled for flavor, the occasional strip of salted pork, more fat than flesh. There are no forks, perhaps a knife, maybe a shared spoon, but mostly you eat with your hands. You tear bread, dense and dark, and dip it into the broth. Your fingers burn, then cool quickly in the steam. The taste is earthy, a little sour, not unpleasant, but far from indulgent. This is not food for pleasure. It is food to fill, to stretch, to last. If others are present, you eat together, but without much talk. Eating is quiet, focused. Children sit cross-legged, wiping their mouths on sleeves. Elders chew slowly, carefully. Everyone shares from the same bowl. Plates are rare, napkins non-existent. You wipe your hands on your tunic. Grease marks stay, but that's expected. Clean clothing is not part of this world's dinner table. Neither is variety. Every night, the same pottage, the same bread. If the seasons allow, perhaps a cabbage. In summer, a few herbs. But in winter, only what was dried or salted months ago. And when the pot is empty, that is the end. There is no dessert, no second course. You drink weak ale or small beer, the kind even children sip. It dulls the hunger slightly, warms the belly, reminds you, just faintly, of comfort. And then, silence returns, because food here is not celebration. It is survival. Night has fully arrived, not with celebration, but with surrender. The fire has faded to glowing coals, casting soft orange shapes across the walls. You feel it in your bones, the weariness, the aching pull of a body that's been on its feet since before sunrise. But even rest here carries its own discomfort. There is no private bedroom, no thick mattress, no pillow scented with familiarity. Instead, you return to the straw-stuffed sack on the floor, its shape unchanged from when you left it. The blanket is coarse wool, shared with one or perhaps several others. The body heat you share is the only defense against the cold that presses in from every wall. You lie shoulder to shoulder with family, sometimes with neighbors or servants. There is no shame in it, only necessity. Children kick in their sleep, adults turn and murmur. Someone snores, another coughs. A baby whimpers softly from the far corner. The room is filled with sounds, but none you can silence. Privacy, here, is a luxury beyond imagination. There is no door to close behind you, no solitude in which to reflect. Even your dreams feel communal, shaped by the breath and movement of those beside you. And yet, you rest, not in comfort, but in exhaustion. The straw beneath you pokes through the fabric. You shift, but there is no better position. A mouse scurries in the rafters above. Somewhere outside, a dog barks at the darkness. The night is long. Time seems to slow, heavy with silence and occasional whispers. But your body adjusts. Your mind begins to drift. And in this world, even shared sleep is a kind of refuge, a space where you are still, where nothing more is asked of you, at least until the rooster crows again. You wake before the light. The cold has deepened in the night, slipping through every crack in the timber walls, curling around your ankles, clinging to your chest. Your breath leaves your lips in small clouds, vanishing into the air like whispered ghosts. There is no insulation here, no heater to stir into life, no switch to push back the frost. The cold simply enters, patient, persistent, and uninvited. The blanket, already thin, holds little warmth. You pull it tighter, but your fingers are stiff, your toes numb. Beneath you, the straw has shifted into hard ridges, pressing unkindly into your back. You feel every joint, every bruise. Others around you stir as well, though no one speaks. The cold makes conversation feel unnecessary, even wasteful. You rise slowly, each movement cautious, as if your body were made of old wood, liable to snap. The water in the bucket by the door has frozen. You chip at it with your knuckles, wincing at the sharpness. Your face, when you splash it, feels like stone. The shock of it wakes you fully, but not pleasantly. And still, you must begin. Outside, the ground crunches underfoot. Frost clings to the thatched roofs. Smoke rises lazily from a few chimneys. The animals are restless, shivering in their pens. Their warmth would be welcome. Some villagers do sleep beside goats or pigs, not out of choice, but to survive. Fire must be built again, wood fetched, fingers thawed slowly near flame. But the wood is damp, and your breath fogs as you strike flint against steel. Again and again, sparks fly, but no flame catches. You try again, and again, because there is no other way. The cold here is not an inconvenience. It is an adversary, a presence that must be fought daily, hourly. You do not complain. There is no one to hear you, and even if there were, what would they say? This is simply how the morning begins. And so you begin again. In this world, who you are is not decided by ambition or dreams or effort. It is decided at birth, and once given, your place is nearly impossible to change. Your name carries weight, not the weight of pride, but of permanence. It marks your station, your family's standing, your usefulness to the village or the Lord. If your father was a farmer, so too will you till the same fields. If your mother was a laundress, your hands will know the same cold water and raw skin. You do not choose your path, you inherit it. There are no last names as you know them, only descriptors. John the miller, Alice of the marsh, Thomas, son of Hugh. These names serve a purpose, linking you not to freedom, but to duty. and society ensures you remember your place. The social structure is rigid, as if carved into stone. Nobility at the top, ordained by God and blood. Clergy, robed and literate, holding spiritual and often earthly power. Beneath them, a wide sea of peasants, merchants, craftsmen, and servants, each in their tier, their position fixed. You cannot climb, not because you lack worth, but because the world will not let you. A commoner's child cannot enter a monastery without a noble's permission. A peasant cannot marry a merchant's daughter. Even to wear certain fabrics is forbidden. Silk, reserved for those born above. Laws of sumptuary dress ensure you remain visually in your place, and should you step out of line, you are corrected, quietly or cruelly. Often both. Education is rare. Books are sacred, handwritten, and locked away. To read is to have power, and for most, that power will never be yours. You come to understand this is not injustice as you've known it. It is not even questioned. It is simply life, a chain that binds not only your hands, but your children's and theirs. And the heaviest part? The chain is invisible, but everyone feels its pull. The air holds a quiet tension, not always spoken, but never forgotten. It lives in the way people glance toward travelers, in the prayers murmured for no apparent reason, in the sudden silence that follows a cough. Disease is not an occasional fear here. It is a constant shadow. When illness comes, it arrives without warning, without explanation. One day, someone stirs the pottage. The next, they cannot rise from their bed. Fevers burn hot, boils swell, breaths grow short and wet. And when one falls ill, others soon follow. The plague has come before, it will come again. They call it God's punishment, a cleansing, a curse. There is no cure, no understanding, just fire in the streets, bells in the night, carts carrying the dead, while the living watch from behind shuttered eyes. Entire families vanish, villages empty. The silence that follows is louder than screams. And if not disease, then war, not the distant kind waged on foreign shores, but war that rides into town, hooves on muddy roads, armor flashing like stormlight, soldiers with eyes too tired to remember names. A lord demands men for battle. Your brother goes. Your son follows. They may not return. Fields burn. Grain stores are emptied. Livestock taken for meat. Homes pressed into service or destroyed without thought. You are not protected. You are in the way. There is no news, only rumors. A town 10 miles away no longer answers its calls. A man passes through with blood on his tunic. A priest gives final blessings more often than usual. And so, each day is lived with a quiet bracing, a readiness, not for what might happen, but for what will. Eventually, you do not ask if, only when. Survival here is not dramatic. It is not a moment of crisis, followed by triumph. It is quieter, slower, a persistent hum that shapes every gesture, every decision. You wake not for pleasure, but because you must. You eat not for flavor, but because there is work to do. You labor not for fulfillment, but to stay warm, fed, and sheltered through one more night. And in this rhythm, repeated day after day, survival becomes both the burden and the blessing. Every resource is precious. Water is drawn by hand. Wood is gathered piece by piece. Nothing is wasted. Bones boiled twice. Cloth patched until it dissolves. Old tools reforged into new ones. Even time is portioned carefully. A lost hour is not an inconvenience. It is a risk, a delay in preparing food, a moment missed in the planting season, a shadow cast over the coming winter. You learn to notice the signs. A cracked window that lets in too much cold. A sick hen whose eggs will no longer come. A flickering fire that means someone forgot to store enough fuel. Each of these small things can begin the spiral downward. And in this world, the climb back is steep. Communities survive together. People trade, borrow, lean on each other when they can, but only when they can. When times are hard, and they often are, everyone retreats inward. You cannot help your neighbor if your own children go hungry. And so, kindness exists, but it is cautious, and beneath it all is the quiet truth. Most people do not live long. Many do not reach adulthood. Many women die in childbirth. Wounds fester, teeth rot. A fever can take you in a day. And yet, people continue. They wake, they walk, they work. Not because it is easy, but because there is no other choice. This is the texture of medieval life. Not heroic, not romantic, just persistent.